Hi, this is Peter Navarra, and we are live with Catching Exceptions here in Berlin, Germany at SUGCON EU 2018. I have Richard Seal from RBA. Thanks for joining us. Jason Wilkerson from RBA as well. Thanks for joining us. We also have Rob Habraken. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So as we look at digital marketing today and the connected experiences of today, the Internet of Things still seems like the future. What do you think is holding companies back from really embracing IoT, taking that seriously?
That it comes down to the maturity of the customer. And when you think about the Sitecore platform, I would say that there are so many folks that are still trying to come to grips with how do we leverage the power of the platform, much less how do we throw in devices into the mix.
I think it's also that we're still looking for useful applications and what works and what not.
But I think that kind of goes to how the talk that Jason did about the Ice House thing grew into what we did about the theme park. Yeah. So with the Ice House, it really was very experimental. It was a very unique use case. Whereas now we bring it forward to, hey, we can run a theme park with this stuff. And people like Disney already do that. So we're seeing some really good real-world applications as to how people can use IoT stuff to market and enhance the experience of their customers.
I think that the easiest entry level is the devices like Alexa and Google Home that bring it closer.
I think added to that as well is the lack of standardization across all the devices. Some things work with Alexa, some things work with Google, some things work with Apple, but not everything works with everything. And if you try to set a smart home up or anything like that, just trying to dig through the different interfaces and it can get really confusing for general users on that.
So, we also touched on like the Amazon Alexas of the world and the Google Homes really helping to bridge the IoT gap from a consumer perspective. As marketers, how can we think about using these devices in our own strategies?
Well, I think it's just another input device to throw into the big data cloud.
Yeah, but it certainly helps in getting people used to using this technology. And we did some experiments as well. And it's not a large group, but we actually see people started using Alexa to use our services, our chat services via Alexa. And it was only like a group of 10 people, but they continued to use it afterwards. So they got used to it and they stuck with it.
I think as well with a new generation of kids growing up with this stuff in their house, certainly my kid uses Alexa for a lot more than I use it for. He's always shouting at Alexa for something. So as younger ones grow up and they're just used to these devices coming up, it's going to become massive in the future.
So when we're building out web pages and web experiences for web browser use, do you think that we're approaching a road where we're also going to need to plan for the IoT experience?
I think we will. I think it'll take some time before it becomes a big enough sector of things that we have to think about and design for, but it most definitely will.
And I think we also should take into account the user experience across devices. So not only focus on the web. I think that the web will not be the largest or main device in the future. So it will be the real experience of being able to interact with multiple devices and continue your journey. That will be the challenge. So user experience is also something you can design on an Alexa or any other IoT device.
So then when we think about it from a Sitecore perspective, and I know your guys' presentation yesterday, which was amazing, you took us on a great ride with Sitecore Land. As a connected marketing platform, where does Sitecore fit in with this? Where do you actually see this?
I think now we have XConnect and we can really make use of all the marketing features by pushing data from IoT into XConnect much easier than before. Then you have the omni-channel tools in Sitecore that are really going to help, like EXM to contact our customers.
Well, I mean, also, going back to the fact that these things are really input devices. It's a way for companies to see how people are interacting offline. I know I kind of say that a lot, but I mean that's truly what it is. So I mean, you've got somebody that uses a Garmin or a Apple Watch or something to track fitness, and you see that they're always on the running setting or something like that, and you're a shoe company. If you've got access to that kind of data, you can see how long they run. If you've got access to their purchase history, you can see when's the last time they bought shoes. You can say, hey, you typically run a lot, so that you're probably due for some new shoes. I mean, it's more data that you can act against.
And it really is a whole new level of personalization that we're aiming to get, which then brings up an interesting question. We start looking at the policy side, especially here in the EU with GDPR, which is coming out on May 25th. Just last week, Business Insider UK published a story talking about how hackers have actually used an IoT device to get into a casino where there's a thermometer in the lobby aquarium. So what are some considerations that we should take when we're thinking about IoT with respect to things like GDPR?
If I take a look at our perspective from an agency and from implementing these platforms with customer portals and service portals, we're already quite used to putting security high priority. So for us, extending towards IoT devices would be a logical step in getting that secure as well.
Yeah, I think that right now it is still kind of the early days of a new frontier in technology. So I think a lot of people are coming up with the ideas that may not know how to secure the device, but they're just trying to get to market with their idea first, secure it later. So I think that's something that we really have to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think as implementation partners as well, it puts a bit of a responsibility on us, because there are so many cheap devices out there that are made cheaply and don't have security in there. But I think a lot of that's going to come down to who builds the equipment. Make sure you're getting reputable companies building it. When it comes to the device, we're really only going to be able to secure the interaction between the device and what we're building.
So as we near the end of our roundtable discussion, which has been pretty enlightening, what's some advice that you would give companies or marketers or people who are looking to get into the IoT space but they don't really know how? Like, what's some advice that you would give them?
My first piece of advice would be to come up with a good business plan and strategy around how you're going to use the device, how you're going to use the data that you collect from the device, rather than just say, hey, I'm just going to throw all these devices out there and start tracking all this data and not having a plan for how you're going to use it, because you're probably going to end up with more of a maintenance headache. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not collecting all of the data at once. It's really being targeted in what you're collecting so that you're focused on that.
Yeah, but you should, and I think you should also, next to that, should not be afraid to experiment in finding other ways to interact with your users. And the example I gave, we have a website where people can submit their meter readings for their energy consumption, and we've built a website which has been optimized over and over for years. And then we started up a conversational interface with a chatbot and Alexa, and it turns out that the conversion rates were almost immediately up to the same level.
Oh wow!
So it was not fine-tuned, and it was a very raw setup, and it was just like an experiment. But people like those this conversational type of interacting with technology.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this great roundtable in this beautiful city of Berlin, this beautiful conference center. And I know I've enjoyed all the panels, and hope you guys are too. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So from Berlin, Germany, this is Peter Navarra signing off with Catching Exceptions, and we'll see you in the after.